All right, ready to dive in.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
So we've got this super insightful essay from July 2023, all about doing incredible work.
And get this.
It applies to any field you can think of.
Any field.
But here's the thing, it kind of assumes you're ambitious.
Yeah.
So as we unpack this, think about what you're really driven towards, what you want to achieve, those big dreams.
It's fascinating. Right off the bat, the essay tackles a really tough question,
Oh, yeah.
especially for those just starting out.
Mm-hmm.
What should you actually work on?
Right.
The author doesn't sugarcoat it either. They're straight up like choosing your path is daunting.
Yeah, totally. Especially when you're young, it's like that feeling of staring at a menu with a million options.
Million.
You have no clue what you'll actually enjoy eating.
Exactly. And the author's solution to this is pretty interesting.
What is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just pick a project that grabs your attention and go for it.
Don't overthink it. Just dive in.
Exactly. No need to have your whole career mapped out before you even begin.
I like that. Just get your hands dirty, see what happens.
Yeah. They also emphasize letting your ambition guide you. Not just any ambition, though. The excitingly ambitious kind.
So like that feeling where you're genuinely pumped about the possibilities.
Exactly. And think back to when you were a kid, completely absorbed in building that epic Lego castle or teaching yourself how to code. Remember that.
Yeah,
That same energy, that excitement can fuel some truly amazing work.
totally.
And here's something even more interesting. They encourage tapping into that excessive curiosity. Those things that most people find boring,
Yeah.
those unique fascinations, those could be your secret weapon.
Okay, I'm all about embracing those weird interests, finding that thing that truly grabs me.
Right.
But then what? Does the essay actually give us a roadmap for doing that great work, for making it happen?
It absolutely does.
Oh, tell me more.
It lays out a framework with 4 clear steps. The first being choosing your field, like what area you want to really master.
Okay, so we've picked our playing field.
Right.
What's next? What's step 2?
Step 2 is all about mastering that field, not just surface level stuff.
Right.
It's about becoming an expert, getting those nuances, pushing those boundaries of what's already known.
So that's where the real work begins. I imagine it takes some serious dedication.
Definitely. But the beauty is, if you're truly captivated by your field, that hard work is fueled by that deep interest, almost like it propels you forward.
Passion is fuel. I like that.
Yeah, and the essay highlights 3 really powerful motives:
Okay.
curiosity, delight, and that desire to achieve something truly remarkable.
It's not just about grinding it out. It's about hitting that sweet spot where hard work meets genuine excitement.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the author uses this cool analogy to describe the reward of diving deep into knowledge.
Oh.
They talk about discovering a new fractal bud.
Fractal bud.
Yeah, think of it like finding this tiny crack in the surface of what's known, and you pry it open, and boom, a whole universe of possibilities just explodes outward.
That's a great
Yeah.
visual. I can see why people get so hooked on research, that thrill of discovery. But let's be real for a sec.
Okay.
This whole choosing what to work on thing, that can be paralyzing.
It can't.
I mean, how do we really know what we'll truly love until we're already knee-deep in it?
You're absolutely right, and the essay acknowledges this challenge head on.
Okay, good.
You can't fully grasp what a certain type of work actually entails until you're in the thick of it.
Makes sense.
So we often end up making those decisions based on incomplete information.
It's like trying to choose a travel destination based solely on those glossy pictures online. You just don't get the real feel until you're actually there.
Exactly. And to add another layer of complexity, ambition can really cloud our judgment.
Oh, also.
We might chase after a certain field because it seems prestigious or lucrative, even if our hearts aren't truly in it.
Chasing someone else's dream instead of our own, that's definitely a recipe for burnout.
Couldn't agree more, and the author is actually pretty critical of those educational systems that pressure students to specialize too early.
Really, why is that?
They believe forcing young people to choose a path before they've had a chance to really explore their options.
Yeah.
That sets them up for potential unhappiness down the line.
It's like being told to pick your career path when you're still trying to figure out who you are as a person.
Exactly.
No wonder so many people end up feeling lost.
But here's the good news. The essay doesn't leave us hanging.
Oh, good.
It encourages us to actively seek out work that sparks our curiosity and really take ownership of that journey.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed by all those choices,
Yeah.
We should see it as this amazing opportunity to explore, to experiment, to figure out what truly lights us up.
Exactly.
But how do we actually find that work, the work that speaks to us?
Well, the essay gives some fantastic advice on optimizing for interestingness.
Interestingness. I like that.
Right. And firstly, we have to remember that fields evolve as we learn.
Hmm.
What might seem like one thing on the surface can be completely different once you're actually doing the work.
So we have to be willing to try things out, explore those different avenues, and see where they lead.
Exactly. And don't shy away from those strange tastes. Those unique interests that make you stand out.
Right.
Those could actually be your superpowers.
Leading you to uncharted territory, undiscovered areas, ripe for innovation.
I love that.
It's like that saying, the person who follows the crowd will usually get no further than the crowd.
True.
Sometimes you got to forge your own path to do truly great work.
Yeah.
But amidst all the noise and pressure, how do we stay true to ourselves?
Such an important question, and the essay emphasizes this too. The author actually uses this great analogy. Write the story you want to read, build the tool you want to use.
Create from a place of genuine passion, not to please others or follow trends.
Exactly. It's about trusting your gut, creating from the heart, not trying to fit into some predefined mold.
But that takes courage, doesn't it?
It does.
There will always be those forces trying to pull you off track. Money, fear of failure, pressure to conform.
Oh, yeah.
How do we stay grounded?
Well, genuine interest acts like this anchor. It keeps you focused on what truly matters.
It's like having that internal compass guiding you, even when things get rough.
I love that analogy.
But let's get real for a second. Even when you're fueled by passion, doing the work isn't always sunshine and rainbows.
No, it's not.
How do we navigate those inevitable ups and downs of the creative process, those moments of doubt, of frustration?
That's where the concept of staying upwind comes in.
Staying upwind.
Yeah, it's about prioritizing your interests even when faced with those challenges.
Okay, so I'm curious, what does staying upwind actually look like in practice?
Think of it like being a sailor adjusting their sails.
Okay.
Harnessing the wind, even when it's not blowing directly in their favor,
Okay.
you adapt to those changing circumstances, you seize those opportunities as they arise, and you constantly reassess your direction based on what you're learning along the way.
So it's less about rigidly sticking to a plan and more about having a sense of direction while remaining open to those new possibilities.
Exactly, and a huge part of that is finding a work style that really suits you.
Mm-hmm.
The essay really emphasizes managing your energy, understanding your limits, and avoiding burnout.
Makes sense.
It talks about having these large chunks of uninterrupted time to really dive into those demanding tasks.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Different tasks require different levels of focus, different energy. Got to be strategic with our time, right?
Absolutely, and the essay even gives some really helpful tips for tackling procrastination,
Oh, tell me about it.
especially that sneaky kind that disguises itself as work.
Oh, I know that one all too well. It's like you're super busy all day, but haven't actually made any real progress on the things that matter most.
Exactly. They suggest periodically asking yourself this one question:
What's that?
am I working on what I most want to be working on right now?
Love that.
If the answer is no, it's time to step back, reevaluate those priorities, and make some adjustments.
It's like having that regular check-in with yourself, making sure you're not just spinning your wheels, but actually moving towards those goals.
Yeah, I like that, moving towards those goals. And speaking of that, the essay also delves into the power of consistency
Yeah.
and how it links to this concept of exponential growth.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
They make a really compelling argument that consistent effort, even in small increments, can lead to incredible progress over time.
Small steps, big results.
Exactly. Think about it. Like writing just one page a day
Okay.
might not seem like much in the moment,
Right.
but over a year, boom, you've got a whole book.
It's like the saying, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yes, but it's not just about that first step.
No.
It's about keeping that momentum going day after day.
I like this. So it's not just linear progress.
No.
It's about tapping into that compounding effect where your efforts build upon each other.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of exponential growth.
Okay.
However, those early stages of exponential growth can feel deceptively slow.
Oh, yeah, I've been there.
You're putting in the work, but you might not see those big, flashy results right away.
You're planting a seed.
Yes.
You have to nurture it patiently and trust that it will blossom eventually.
I love that analogy.
even if you don't see visible progress for a while.
And that's where a lot of people give up, They get discouraged by that lack of immediate feedback.
Right, they abandon the garden before it's had a chance to bloom.
Exactly. But if we truly understood the power of investing in that long-term growth, I think more people would stick with it.
It's about shifting that mindset from instant gratification to a long-term perspective. It's like investing in a retirement fund.
Yes.
You might not see those returns immediately, but you trust those consistent contributions are going to compound over time,
Exactly.
leading to financial freedom down the road.
Now, the essay also brings up this really interesting point about undirected thinking.
Undirected thinking, does that mean zoning out in front of the TV?
Not quite.
Okay.
It's about those moments when your mind is free to wander, during a walk, in the shower, or even just lying in bed.
Those times when you let your mind just kind of drift?
Exactly. And these seemingly idle moments can be surprisingly fertile ground for problem solving,
Really?
generating new ideas.
It's like those aha moments that hit you when you least expect them.
Yes.
Your subconscious mind is working in the background, making connections, piecing things together.
And they emphasize minimizing distractions to really create space for this kind of thinking to flourish.
So it's about creating this kind of mental sanctuary where our thoughts can play and connect without those constant interruptions.
Absolutely.
I like that. Okay, so we're talking about doing great work.
Yes.
We're talking about aiming high, striving for excellence.
Mhm.
How do we cultivate that drive to be the best?
The essay encourages us to develop our taste by studying the very best work out there,
Okay.
understanding what makes it great, what are those techniques, what are those insights.
It's like studying the masters in any field. You immerse yourself in their work.
Yes.
You analyze their techniques. You try to absorb their brilliance.
Exact.
And not to copy them,
Mm.
but to learn from the best.
Right.
And fuel your own creative journey.
And here's a surprising point they make.
Okay.
Aiming for the best can actually simplify your decisions.
How so?
When you set your sights on excellence, it becomes easier to filter out those distractions
Oh.
and really focus on what matters.
It's like having a clear destination in mind.
Yes.
It helps you chart a more direct course,
Absolutely.
even with those detours and obstacles along the way.
They even go so far as to suggest trying to create something that will still be relevant 100 years from now.
Wow, that's a high bar, but I love it.
Right.
It really makes you consider the impact and the longevity of your work, creating something that can stand the test of time.
Now, they also talk about embracing earnestness in your work.
Earnestness. Doesn't that sound a bit, I don't know, old-fashioned?
Not at all. They define it as this combination of intellectual honesty,
Mhm.
informality, and really focusing on what truly matters.
Okay.
It's about stripping away that pretense,
Right.
approaching your work with authenticity and integrity.
So being genuine, letting your true self shine through.
Exactly, not putting on a facade.
And they make a really interesting observation.
Was that?
They say nerds have an advantage here.
Nerds.
Really, why?
Because they tend to prioritize substance over appearance.
Mm-hmm.
They're passionate about their interests, and they dive deep into those details.
Yeah.
They're not worried about being cool or trendy.
Right. They're driven by that pure thirst for knowledge and understanding.
Exactly. So it's about embracing that inner nerd, that unadulterated passion and curiosity that fuels our desire to learn and explore.
Love that.
They also highlight the importance of admitting when you're wrong.
Oof, that's a tough one for a lot of people.
It is.
But why is that so crucial for doing great work?
Because clinging to wrong beliefs, even when evidence contradicts them, it stifles creativity and it blocks us from seeing new possibilities.
Okay.
It's about intellectual humility,
Right.
acknowledging our limitations, and being open to changing our minds.
So being a lifelong learner, always seeking new knowledge, challenging assumptions, and refining our understanding of the world.
Exactly. And this ties back to that informality we discussed earlier.
Uh-huh.
It's about focusing on the substance, the insights, that pursuit of truth, not getting bogged down in those rigid rules.
Or those superficial appearances.
Exactly. Stripping away the unnecessary baggage.
Right. And focusing on what truly makes our work meaningful and impactful.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I like that. Now let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Not just in terms of effort, but in the work itself.
Yes.
So how does that apply to the actual content we create?
The essay encourages striving for consistency within your work, making choices that align with your overall vision.
Okay.
It's about creating a cohesive whole
Uh-huh.
where every element supports and enhances the others.
It's like building a house. You wouldn't use mismatched bricks and mortar. You want a solid, harmonious structure.
Exactly, and that might require being pretty ruthless in your editing process.
Ooh, tough love.
They emphasize being willing to throw away or even redo work that just doesn't fit, even if you're emotionally attached to it.
It's like killing your darlings, as they say in writing.
Wow.
Sometimes you have to make that sacrifice for the greater good of the project.
Exactly, and they suggest using mathematical elegance as a guide.
Mathematical elegance.
Yeah, to discern what truly belongs.
How does that apply to creative work?
It's about aiming for that simplicity, clarity, effortless flow, you know?
Mhm.
The most elegant solutions often seem like they were always meant to be, like
Yeah.
they're discovered rather than created.
Right. It's about striking that balance between complexity and simplicity,
Absolutely.
where each element has a purpose and it contributes to the overall beauty and functionality of the work.
I couldn't agree more. And speaking of discovery,
Yes.
the essay makes this really interesting point about the nature of creative work.
Okay.
They suggest that approaching work as a process of discovery
hmm
rather than pure creation can be incredibly fruitful.
I'm intrigued. Break that down for me. What does approaching work as discovery actually mean?
It's about embracing the unknown, allowing yourself to be surprised by what emerges,
Okay.
being open to those unexpected turns along the way.
So not rigidly sticking to a plan,
No.
but letting the work unfold more organically.
Exactly, like uncovering a hidden treasure.
Like an explorer venturing into uncharted territory, having a general direction,
Yes.
but open to those serendipitous discoveries and detours.
They do mention one exception, though.
Good.
The process of choosing what to work on.
hmm
This is more akin to creation, as you might even invent a whole new field during that process.
Like a pioneer forging a new path through the wilderness, rather than following an existing trail.
I like that.
Okay.
The essay also encourages creating these unrestricted tools.
Unrestricted tools.
Yeah, tools that are flexible and adaptable enough to be used in ways that you never even anticipated.
Okay.
They believe the truly powerful tools are going to be used in ways their creators never even envisioned.
It's like inventing the wheel.
Yes.
You might initially envision it for carts, but who could have predicted its impact on everything from bicycles to airplanes?
Exactly. And this ties back to embracing the unknown,
Yeah.
welcoming those happy accidents in the creative process. You just never know how your work might evolve or what impact it might have down the line.
So letting go of that need to control every outcome.
Right.
Trusting that your work will find its own way in the world.
Now let's talk about originality.
Love it.
Because if we're talking about great work,
Yeah,
bringing something new to the table is essential.
absolutely. So how do we cultivate that spark of originality? Is it something we're born with, or can we learn to be more creative?
The author makes this really fascinating argument.
Okay.
Originality is a habit of mind.
A habit of mind.
Yeah, like an angle grinder throwing off sparks.
That's a vivid image.
Right. So it's not about forcing originality, but rather developing a mindset that naturally generates those new ideas.
Original thinkers, they see the world through a fresh lens. They notice patterns that others miss.
Right.
They generate those insights from seemingly ordinary observations.
It's about nurturing that childlike sense of wonder and curiosity, the ability to see the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Absolutely. And they make this interesting point
Yeah.
that original ideas often emerge when we're tackling something that's slightly too difficult for us.
Yes, pushing those boundaries.
Makes sense. When we push our limits,
Yeah.
we venture beyond our comfort zones.
Mhm.
We're more likely to stumble upon those innovative solutions.
Exactly. And they suggest talking and writing about your interests
Yeah.
as a way to spark those new ideas.
So getting those ideas out of our heads and into the world,
Yes.
whether it's bouncing them off colleagues,
Yeah.
journaling, sharing them with a wider audience.
Exactly. Getting them out there.
I like that.
They also encourage exploring a diverse range of topics and using analogies for inspiration.
Like cross-pollinating your mind with ideas from different fields.
Yes.
Who knows what connections or sparks of inspiration you might find.
And they also highlight the power of simply changing your context, like just going for a walk.
Hit the reset button.
Yeah, just to unlock those new perspectives.
Love it. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the power of questions.
Okay.
Because sometimes asking the right question is more important than finding the answer.
Absolutely. And the author argues that good questions are partial discoveries in themselves.
How so?
They open up these new avenues for exploration. They challenge those assumptions.
Yeah.
They lead us down these unexpected paths, force us to confront the limits of what we know.
It's about being comfortable with not having all the answers, isn't it?
It is.
Embracing that unknown, recognizing that the journey is just as important as the destination.
Absolutely. And they acknowledge that carrying those unanswered questions, it can be uncomfortable.
It can.
It's like this mental itch you can't quite scratch.
Oh, I know that feeling.
But these unanswered questions, they hold incredible potential.
Hmm.
They can be those seeds of future breakthroughs, the catalyst for those groundbreaking discoveries.
So we should hold on to those questions.
Yes.
Nurture them.
Mhm.
Trust that they will eventually lead us somewhere amazing.
Absolutely. And the author also challenges that classic image of experts always being certain.
Right.
They encourage us to embrace puzzlement,
Oh, okay.
confusion,
Yeah.
even seeing those as signs that you're actually on the right track.
It's about embracing the messiness of the creative process, acknowledging that there will be those moments of doubt,
Yes.
uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
but those are often the moments where those most innovative ideas are born.
Exactly. And they advocate for what they call a promiscuously curious approach to exploration.
Promiscuously curious. That's an interesting way to put it.
It is, right.
So what do they mean by that?
It's about exploring multiple lines of inquiry,
Okay.
starting many small projects,
Yeah.
not being afraid to experiment and see what sticks.
Like a bee flitting between flowers,
Yes.
gathering nectar and pollen from a variety of sources.
Exactly. And this can be incredibly fruitful for generating new ideas.
Right.
Discovering those unexpected connections.
Being a multi-passionate explorer, following your curiosity wherever it leads,
Absolutely.
and seeing where it takes you.
Now, let's talk about iterative progress
Okay.
and the value of starting small.
Because sometimes the biggest ideas have the humblest beginnings.
Absolutely. And they suggest starting with the simplest possible solution
Okay.
and iterating from there.
Building in stages,
Yes.
testing as you go,
Mhm.
refining your approach based on what you learn.
It's like building a prototype.
Yep.
You create a rough draft,
Uh-huh.
test it out, identify those areas for improvement, and iterate based on those findings.
It's like the scientific method in action.
Exactly.
You form a hypothesis,
Yeah.
you experiment, you gather data, you refine the hypothesis based on those results.
And starting small also makes it much less intimidating to embark on a new project.
Right, because you're not trying to create a masterpiece right from the start.
It's like climbing a mountain.
Yeah,
You don't attempt the summit in one go. You take it one step at a time.
setting up those base camps along the way.
And they also highlight the importance of managing risk
Okay.
and embracing failure.
Because when you're pushing those boundaries, when you're trying new things, setbacks are inevitable.
Absolutely.
So how do we deal with those inevitable failures? Does the essay offer any advice on bouncing back from setbacks and using them as fuel for growth?
They do. They encourage calculated risk-taking,
Okay.
reminding us that failure often just means you're pushing those boundaries. And they point out a unique advantage that young people have.
What's that?
More time to recover from setbacks and experiment.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
They even suggest spending time on things that might seem frivolous,
Frivolous, like what?
like learning something just because you're curious,
Oh.
building something just because it'd be cool,
Right.
becoming incredibly good at something even if it doesn't seem useful right now.
So nurturing that sense of play and exploration, allowing yourself to get lost in those things that spark your interest.
Exactly. Those seemingly frivolous pursuits, they can sometimes lead to unexpected breakthroughs.
Right.
Open up those new creative avenues.
It's about trusting those dots will connect eventually,
Yeah.
even if you can't see the whole picture at this moment.
They also highlight paying attention to things that seem wrong or missing when you're first learning something.
Why is that so crucial?
Well, because when you encounter new information, it doesn't always fit neatly into your existing knowledge.
Right.
Sometimes a piece sticks out, it doesn't quite make sense.
It's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole. It
Exactly.
doesn't fit.
And they argue these moments of dissonance are actually valuable.
Oh, interesting.
They might point to flaws in our understanding,
Okay.
gaps in our knowledge, or even entire new ideas waiting to be discovered.
So embracing that feeling of cognitive friction,
Yes.
recognizing it as a signpost pointing towards something new and exciting.
Exactly. And even though it can be tempting to just ignore those misgivings,
Yeah, brush them under the rug.
they encourage us to revisit them later, see if they hold up as we gain more experience.
Like keeping a mental notebook of
Yes.
those nagging questions
Exactly.
and then circling back to see if they've evolved into something more substantial.
Right. Now they also talk about clearing out the nonsense that we accumulate in our heads over time.
Nonsense. Like what?
Bad habits, things we've been taught that are actually false, outdated beliefs.
Okay.
They even point a finger at schools as being a major culprit here.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a bold statement. Why are schools so problematic in their view?
Well, they argue that schools often foster this kind of passivity,
Okay.
conditioning students to be these receivers of information rather than active seekers of knowledge.
Interesting.
Students are told what to learn, how to learn it,
Right.
and then they're tested on their ability to basically regurgitate it.
It's like being spoon-fed knowledge instead of being empowered to discover it on your own.
Exactly. And they also criticize how schools present work. Problems are usually really well defined, with clear solutions found within the textbook.
Mm-hmm.
But in the real world,
Yeah.
problems are messy, ambiguous, sometimes even unsolvable.
It's the difference between following a recipe and creating a new dish from scratch.
Yes.
In school, you get the ingredients and the instructions.
Right.
In the real world, you experiment, you improvise, maybe you even invent your own techniques.
And they say maybe the most damaging aspect is how school trains us to win by hacking the test.
Oh, interesting.
Finding those shortcuts,
Right.
gaming the system instead of focusing on deep understanding.
It's cramming for an exam versus truly immersing yourself in a subject and developing that lifelong love of learning.
Exactly. And they urge us to abandon that shortcut mentality and really embrace the challenge of doing the real work.
Right.
True success comes from engaging deeply with the material, struggling, persevering,
Right.
and committing to excellence.
So shifting the focus from those external rewards,
Yes.
those grades, the accolades, the
yeah.
validation.
To that intrinsic satisfaction of mastering a skill,
Yes.
expanding your knowledge, creating something meaningful.
I love that.
And they caution against relying on gatekeepers
Okay.
or seeking validation from those external sources.
Oh,
Focus on doing good work, not impressing committees or chasing after influential people.
let your work speak for itself, trusting that if you create something valuable, it will find its audience.
Exactly. They encourage taking rejection in stride, pointing out that the qualities that might impress those admissions officers or prize committees,
Yeah.
they're not always the same qualities that are needed for great work.
It's a good reminder that success is subjective.
Absolutely.
The opinions of others, especially those in positions of power,
Yeah.
they don't always reflect the true value of your work.
Now, they also discuss the role of copying in the creative process.
Copying. Isn't that a no-no? Plagiarism and all that.
Well, they acknowledge that there's a good and a bad way to copy.
Okay.
Unconscious copying, where you're just mimicking without understanding, that's definitely dangerous.
Okay.
But copying can be a really valuable tool, especially when you're first starting out.
So like learning an instrument by studying the masters,
Yes.
you might start by copying their techniques, but eventually you develop your own style.
Exactly. And they distinguish between copying existing work and copying old work.
Ah.
They advise against copying things that were innovative once, but have become outdated or irrelevant.
Right. So stay ahead of the curve.
Yes.
Don't get stuck in the past.
Exactly.
Seek those cutting-edge ideas. Push those boundaries.
And they emphasize being selective in what you copy.
Okay.
Not every feature of a successful work is actually worth emulating.
Right. Separating the signal from the noise, identifying those essential elements that drive success, and filtering out those distractions.
I like that, filtering out those distractions, and they encourage looking beyond your field for inspiration.
I love that. Breaking out of our silos,
Yeah.
exposing ourselves to new ideas from different disciplines,
They suggest borrowing ideas from distant fields. Okay.
and using them as metaphors to spark those new insights.
Cross-pollinating your mind with ideas from different domains, you never know what unexpected connections you might make.
And they also see value in negative examples.
Negative examples, like what?
Learning from things done badly, sometimes seeing what doesn't work, gives us a clearer understanding of what does.
It's like those epic fail compilations.
Yes.
They're hilarious, but they can also be instructive.
Exactly.
Seeing others' mistakes can help us avoid making those same blunders.
And they encourage actively seeking out and connecting with the best in your field.
The power of community, surrounding yourself with those brilliant minds and inspiring mentors. How do we find those exceptional individuals?
Well, they recommend going where those top performers are concentrated.
Okay.
Conferences, workshops, research labs, those creative hubs.
Yeah.
Immerse yourself in that environment where excellence is the norm.
It's like a pilgrimage to the source of inspiration,
Exactly.
surrounding yourself with those who are pushing boundaries in your field. They also highlight the importance of finding those great colleagues.
Teamwork makes the dream work, the synergy of different perspectives and skills coming together.
Exactly. Even having one or two exceptional colleagues can make a world of difference.
Oh yeah, I've experienced that firsthand.
They describe those ideal colleagues as offering these surprising insights,
Okay.
seeing and doing things that you just can't,
Wow.
pushing you to grow.
Like having a sparring partner,
Yes.
challenging you to up your game, helping you see those blind spots.
Exactly. And they even offer a measure for assessing colleague quality.
Okay, I'm curious.
They consistently offer those surprising insights that challenge your assumptions
Okay.
and push you to think differently.
So surround yourself with people who are smarter than you in certain areas.
Yes.
People who can teach you and challenge you to see the world from new angles.
Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about morale.
Morale. Seems a bit touchy-feely when we're talking about producing great work.
Not at all. The author argues that morale is the foundation for everything.
Really?
Without it, even the most talented individuals struggle.
It's the bedrock of
Yeah.
our creative endeavors.
Exactly.
If the foundation is shaky, the whole structure is at risk.
And they make a great point.
What's that?
Morale compounds through work.
Okay.
High morale fuels good work, which then boosts morale further. It's a positive cycle.
Right. But the reverse is also true.
Yes,
If you're not producing good work, it can be incredibly demoralizing,
absolutely.
making it even harder to get back on track.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Success breeds success,
Yeah.
but a lack of progress can feed on itself.
Totally.
And they suggest switching to easier tasks when you're feeling stuck,
Okay.
just to get that momentum going again.
The power of those small wins, sometimes you just need a boost of confidence.
Exactly.
Get those creative juices flowing again.
And they advise against letting setbacks completely derail your morale.
Okay.
See them as just part of the process, not some kind of catastrophe.
Reframing challenges as those learning opportunities, those setbacks.
Yeah.
They're temporary detours, not the end of the road.
And they offer a couple of practical tips for maintaining morale.
Okay.
One is focusing on your outlook on life.
Okay.
They argue that optimists are more likely to produce great work,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing yourself as lucky,
Yeah.
not a victim,
Right.
has a huge impact.
It's about cultivating a positive mindset, believing in yourself and your potential.
Exactly. They also highlight the importance of having an audience, even a small one.
Because we all crave that validation,
We do.
that connection.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that your work resonates with others can be incredibly motivating.
Absolutely. And they argue that the value of an audience doesn't increase proportionally with size.
Oh, interesting.
A small, dedicated group can be just as supportive
Yeah.
as a massive following.
It's about finding your tribe,
Yes,
those who appreciate your work,
exactly.
who champion your efforts no matter how big or small your audience might be.
I like that, finding your tribe. And they encourage minimizing the influence of those intermediaries between you and your audience.
So having a direct connection,
Yes.
cutting out the middlemen, building those authentic relationships with those who are engaging with your work.
Exactly. Now, they also talk about the impact of the people you spend time with
Oh, for sure.
on your morale.
Our social circles can either lift us up
Yes.
or drag us down.
Absolutely.
The energy we absorb from those around us,
Mm-hmm.
it significantly impacts our motivation and our outlook.
So seek out those people who boost your energy and avoid those who drain it.
Being mindful of the company we keep, surrounding ourselves with those who inspire us, support us, and challenge us to be our best.
I love that. And here's a key point.
Uh.
Ultimately, morale is physical.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How so? How does our physical well-being tie into morale?
Well, since we think with our bodies,
Hmm.
we need to take care of them.
Okay, makes sense.
Get enough sleep, eat well, exercise, avoid those harmful substances.
Treating our bodies like temples, nourishing them, moving them, giving them the rest they need to function at their best.
I like that. And they specifically recommend running and walking for clear thinking.
Oh, yeah. I can totally relate to that. Sometimes my best ideas come when I'm out on a run
Me too.
or just walking in nature, letting my mind wander.
They also talk about managing your energy, recognizing when you need to recharge.
Yeah,
Those ambitious people, they often push themselves way too hard,
it's true.
which leads to burnout and actually diminished creativity.
It's like running a marathon. You can't sprint the entire way. You got to pace yourself,
Yes.
conserve your energy,
Right.
take those breaks when you need them.
And they also warn against comparing yourself to others.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, the prestige of a field is often misleading and a lagging indicator.
It's about focusing on your own path, not getting caught up in the hype or those fleeting trends.
Exactly. Trust your internal compass to guide you where you need to be.
I love that.
And they say to use competition as motivation to work harder, but not as a dictator of what to work on.
Finding that balance between healthy competition
Yes,
and staying true to your own vision.
exactly.
Using others' achievements as inspiration, but not letting them derail you from your unique path.
Absolutely. Now, circling back to the essay's central theme, curiosity as that driving force behind great work.
Curiosity, that insatiable thirst for knowledge, that childlike sense of wonder, it's been woven throughout our entire conversation.
They reiterate nurturing that curiosity and letting it guide us to where our abilities and interests can really ignite those new ideas.
It's like trusting that inner voice that whispers, "What if?" and having the courage to actually follow it.
Doing great work is a dance with curiosity.
I like that.
It chooses the field, propels us to the frontier of knowledge,
Mm.
helps us identify those gaps and unanswered questions, fuels our pursuit of understanding.
It's like having a trusty sidekick on this creative adventure,
I love that.
nudging us forward, challenging us to dig deeper.
Exactly. And reminding us to never stop asking those questions.
And they remind us that so many more people could try to do great work than actually do.
What holds them back?
They say it's a mix of modesty and fear.
Modesty and fear, in what sense?
People shy away from pursuing great work because it feels presumptuous,
Okay.
even arrogant, to aspire to the level of, say, a Newton or a Shakespeare.
Right.
And there's the fear of failure, of course, of falling short of those ambitions.
It's like that imposter syndrome that so many of us struggle with, that feeling of not being good enough,
Right.
not belonging in the company of those we admire.
Exactly. And they challenge that mindset,
Mm-hmm.
urging us to embrace ambition and not let fear hold us back.
Silencing that inner critic, that voice of doubt, and having the boldness to chase those dreams, however audacious they might seem.
Absolutely. And they acknowledge that pursuing great work requires hard work and dedication,
Yeah, there's no shortcut to success.
but they argue that it can be incredibly rewarding and fulfilling. When you're truly passionate about something, the work doesn't feel like work.
Right.
It becomes a source of joy, a challenge embraced wholeheartedly.
And they remind us that those discoveries are out there just waiting to be made.
The world is full of mysteries, unanswered questions,
Yes.
uncharted territories, just waiting for those curious minds to explore them.
And they leave us with this. Why not by you?
Why not by you, indeed? What a powerful call to action, challenging us to step up and embrace our potential for doing great work.
And they note that ability, interest, effort, and luck all play a part in success.
And while we can't control luck,
Right.
we can definitely cultivate our abilities,
Yes.
nurture our interests,
Mm-hmm.
and dedicate ourselves to putting in the effort required.
They encourage us to find that kind of work where our ability and interests combine to yield this explosion of new ideas.
It's about finding where our natural talents and passions align. That's where we can truly shine and make a unique contribution.
Exactly. And they remind us that countless ways to do great work exist, many of them still undiscovered.
Wow.
And the type of work that is best suited for you is likely a comically close match to your abilities and interests.
It's like finding that missing puzzle piece.
Yes.
It fits perfectly, completes the picture,
Absolutely.
and reveals the full beauty of your potential.
So have the courage to try, to experiment, and never give up on pursuing those dreams.
Because in the end, it's not about achieving some arbitrary definition of success or perfection.
It's about embracing the journey, the challenges, the triumphs, the setbacks. All of it fuels our growth and discovery. And they leave us with this really thought-provoking message. The discoveries are out there waiting to be made. Why not by you?
Wow, what a way to end this deep dive, that question. Why not by you?
It is powerful.
It's a call to action.
Yes.
A challenge to step up and embrace our potential.
What's striking about this essay is how it manages to be both incredibly inspiring and refreshingly practical. It pushes us to dream big, but also gives us this concrete advice for navigating the messy realities of actually doing the work.
It's not just about lofty ideals, it's about rolling up our sleeves and getting things done, embracing the process, the challenges, even the failures.
Absolutely.
Those are all stepping stones on the path to creating something meaningful.
What resonated with me was the emphasis on curiosity as that driving force.
For sure.
It's not just about finding the right field or project.
Mm.
It's about this mindset of constant inquiry, a hunger for knowledge, a willingness to follow your interests wherever they lead.
It's like a superpower.
It is.
Seeing the world with those fresh eyes, asking those new questions, uncovering those hidden connections that lead to new insights and innovations.
And they remind us that this journey isn't about some arbitrary definition of success or external validation.
Right.
It's about staying true to yourself, pursuing your passions,
Mhm.
creating work that you're proud of, regardless of the outcome.
It's about finding where our talents, interests, and values intersect, and then pouring our hearts into creating something that truly resonates.
And they challenge us to be bold, to take those risks,
Yeah.
and to embrace the possibility of failure. It's not about avoiding mistakes. It's about learning from them
Right.
and using them to grow.
Having the courage to put yourself out there, experiment, iterate, and push those boundaries.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious,
Yeah.
what stands out to you?
Mm.
What insights or ideas will you take away from this exploration of how to do great work?
For me, it's a reminder to stay curious, trust my instincts, and never stop exploring. It's about embracing the journey, the challenges, all of it.
Yeah, that sense of adventure, that's key.
And that final message, the discoveries are out there waiting to be made. Why not by you?
Man, that really hit home.
It's powerful.
It's like this call to action, this reminder that we all have the potential to make a real difference.
You know what's interesting about this essay? It's both incredibly inspiring
Yeah.
and super practical at the same time.
Yeah, it's not just about those big, lofty ideas.
Right. It's about actually getting our hands dirty, figuring things out as we go.
Embracing the process.
Exactly. Embracing the challenge.
That stumbles.
Yeah, all those little stumbles along the way. They're all part of creating something truly meaningful.
And that focus on curiosity, that really resonated with me, that insatiable drive to learn.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about finding that perfect project. It's about cultivating a mindset of constant inquiry,
Yes.
always asking questions, being hungry for knowledge, following those interests wherever they lead.
It's like a superpower, seeing the world with fresh eyes, asking questions others might not even think to ask, uncovering those hidden connections that can lead to breakthroughs.
And it's a good reminder that this whole journey, it's not about chasing external validation
No.
or trying to meet someone else's definition of success.
It's about staying true to yourself,
Exactly.
pursuing those passions.
Creating work that you're genuinely proud of, regardless of the outcome.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your talents, passions, and values all intersect,
Yes.
and then giving it your all no matter what.
It's also about being bold, taking those risks, and knowing that failure is just part of the process.
It's not about avoiding those mistakes. It's about learning from them, using those experiences to grow, to become more resilient.
Absolutely. Having the courage to put yourself out there, experiment, keep iterating, and constantly push those boundaries.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some of your key takeaways? What really resonated with you?
For me, it's that reminder to stay curious, trust my instincts, and never stop exploring. It's about embracing the journey, the challenges, the ups and downs, all of it.
Beautifully said. And you know what? I think that's a perfect note to end on. The possibilities are truly endless, and the only limits are the ones we create in our own minds. So get out there, explore, create, experiment. Who knows what amazing things you might discover? And that wraps up our deep dive for today. We hope you enjoyed this exploration into what it takes to do great work, and maybe even spark some new ideas in your own creative endeavors. We'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. Think about the advice you'd give your younger self, the one just starting out on their journey, and let that guide you. Until next time, stay curious and keep those creative sparks flying.